Janmo dare nirikshaniya taruni Vedadi bijarima Nityam cetasi bhavyate bhuvikada Sadvakya sancharini Mampatu priyadasha bhavakapadam Sangataye Shridhara Datri Tvam Swayamadi Deva Vanita Dinati Dinam Pashum Raktabhamruta Chandrika Lipimai Sarva Kritir Nidrita Jagrat Kurmak Samashrita Bhagavati Tvamam Samalokaya Mam Sugandha Kugandha Dosha Jaditam Vedadi Karyanvitam Svalpa Swamala Chandra Koti Kiraner Nityam Shariram Kuru Siddharti Nijadosha Vitstalagatir Vyajiyate Vidyaya Kundalya Kulamarga Mukta Nagari Maya Kumarga Shriya Yadyevam bhajati prabhata samaye Madhyana kale tava Nityam yakula kundali japapadam Bojam sasiro bhavet Vevakasha chaturdaleti vimale Vancha falon mulake Nityam samprati nitya dehagatita Sanketita bhavita Vidya kundala manini svajanani Maya kriya bhavyate Yeshte siddha kulodbhave pranatibi Satstotra ke shambhuvi Data shankara mohini tribhuvana Chaya patodgamini Samsaradi mahasukha prarani Tatrastita yogini Sarva granti vibedini svabhujaga Suksmati sukshma para Brahmayana vinodini kulakuti Vyagatini bhavyate.
Stay focused in for a little bit. And then I'm going to do the practice of Duje Drula, the fierce form of the primordial guru. Just for some reason, a book is coming to my mind by Sanderson, and it's a great, great book on Tibetan Buddhism and its roots in both Bon, Nyingma tradition, and how that unfolds, and it's called Civilized Shamans, and it really understands the shamanistic component, the power of invocation. And if we think of all the great yogis who've come here over these years, from Lama Thupten Khalsin to Lama Wandur, and just each one, they all were shamanistic and had the power of invocation. And Yen Chin, all these different yogis, they have the power of invoking the, at times, hidden, deeper, in quotes, unconscious dimensions of our own existingness, which is this, the manifestation of primordial awareness, the archetypical dimension, some Bogakai dimension, to use that language. Huh? So the intermediate area between between here we are sitting in a little room, people, circumstances, little minds or big minds or whatever kind of minds we have at the moment, distorted minds. There, and then is the primordial manifestation, pure openness, creating everything and anything, beatificness, manifesting everything and anything. The intermediate area in this creative process is the archetypical dimension, huh? And that's the way we can understand this. And for the past, from the summer, we've been focusing a lot on the archetypical dimension, its different manifestations, and the power of invocation, and working with ourselves and each other within this dimension. And so I'm just going to read this practice right now. Just actually saw it, and someone had wanted a copy. This is a practice that invokes the fierceness of the primordial guru, huh? And the primordial guru is the light of awareness, that Surya, that sun, huh? Manifesting itself in us. First of all, manifesting us, and then manifesting in us as us. So, if you guys lean into me and I lean into you, we'll have that little conjunctio, right? So I embrace the nature of my own awareness, which is primordial awareness itself, this unbound openness. And it's the very nature of compassion and spacious illumination. Illumination is intrinsic to all this. It's not radiance, the light is not just an addendum. So out of the intensity of compassion for myself and others, I'm able to act and I can invoke the fierceness of this fiery light of dissolving and voiding. Huh? Dissolving and the voiding of anger, and the rage of impotency in my own self. Dissolving even the trace of victimization, huh? And be free of that. Those traces. As the Haruka actually means the Ru is the light, the power of the light, Haruka, huh? And also called the heroes or heroines. The Haruka of inherent pure awareness, free of all conceptual thought, free of destructive states of self-negation and self-stupidity. I'm able to act and cut through the various dimensions of obstructive spirit that are delusive for myself and others. Directly perceiving the Haruka of the primordial ground, Haruka, the light of the primordial ground, like the Surya, the sun, huh? I'm able to act through direct perception, that knowingness, and understand the character, actually understanding the character of various situations that manifest in the oneness of awareness. So in the oneness of awareness, all these infinite events, moment after moment, day after day, and out of the light of the awareness, I'm able to understand the character. It illuminates what's happening here. And from within this base of laminate awareness or luminous awareness, luminescent awareness, I'm able to act decisively. I'm able to act decisively with courage and able to cut through whatever has to be cut through in order to be free from fixation and unending states of being stuck and repetitious preoccupation. In the blazing fire of wisdom gnosis, I invoke the presence of the Guru, which is the presence of primordial awareness, manifesting in myself as myself. And in my heart is this luminous sphere, S-P-H-R-E, as bright as the sun, and circling this light is the mantra, Hum, Hum, Hum. And through this hung, everything dissolves into the innermost luminosity. And through pet or pot, whatever has to be dissolved is dissolved. Whatever has to be open is open. It's got cutting through phenomena. Having become the fierce archetypical power, I have the voice of Duje Drulo, the fierceness of subsuming or subduing the demonic in myself and in situations around me. I become fearless and live in courage and in the integrity of the primordially pure awareness field. And that way, I'm undefeatable. And so I live in bliss, and I'm fearful of no one. I live in the space of oneness, beyond intellectual redundancy, and I love the company of the fearless and fierce companions of the blazing power of luminosity. The Harukas and the Dakinis of the archetypal dimension of this wonderful and amazing field of consciousness. In their protection, I live in this life and in life after life. As Muktananda would often say, if the Guru doesn't give you protection, what good is the Guru? What good is that? What good is it? I consistently take refuge in the awareness, free of duality, and the refuge field dissolves into my own self as my own self. To use analytic words, the self-object functions disappear, and we remain. There's a time when the self-object functions that hold the awareness, there's a time the self-object functions disappear, and awareness itself is the self-object function. I have no more mother, I have no more father. That dissolves. You honor the mother and you honor the person who was the mother and who was the father. But in our mind, that internalization no longer exists. Empty, open. I consistently take refuge in this awareness, free of duality. And so the refuge field dissolves into my own self as my own self. And within this state of fierceness, or wrathfulness, a word they use at times, and intensity, all anger and hatred is severed and dissolved. And so I become free. And in the center of this blazing space that I am, Ahama, arises the luminous blue bindu. That blue dot, that blue light, that sphere of blue light. And from this sphere, SPHRE, light rays of burning brilliance radiate forth. And the blue hung is the essence of the life force. And this purifying light radiates into infinite horizons, illuminating experience. So most of these invocations are always at one way or other invoking the life force, or they use words like chi or shakti, the vital life force, that vitality, that innermost vitality. Even if we're on the way out, that vitality of awareness is there, even if nothing is working in our bodies. The blue hung is the essence of the life force, and this purifying light radiates into the infinite horizon, illuminating experience. The luminous light of awareness brings transparency, or actually the translucidity, to the appearances both within and without. So things don't seem so dense, so obscure, so opaque. Within my being, I experience the vortexual, the swirling, that vortexual intensity of innate awareness, increasing my capacity to dissolve negative states of mind and consequent situations that block and dim the experience of radiant luminosity. The fierce intensity of awareness allows me to integrate the wildness of my mind, and the expanding innermost light allows me to meet the ever unfolding dramatic karma and the ever unfolding events of this world, which is the brilliantly terrifying form of appearance and spaciousness. And it's quite amazing in many of these ancient texts, so often they reference the brilliantly terrifying form of this world. This is not just the smooth little calm lake frame. Living both in timeless awareness and in time, living both in timeless awareness and in time, I become the universal person who never moves from bliss and spaciousness. The Purusha, that word, the blue bird, the blue being, right? I become Haruka, the person who abides, who is able to act decisively out of compassion and meet every situation just as it is. I know that everything is the expanse of the knowingness of the three kayas, and I'm able to experience the nature as it is, as it's manifesting, both the manifesting and the manifested simultaneously. Om Ahung Vajraguru Drola Siddhi Hung. Om Ahung Vajraguru Siddhi Hung. I embrace the primordial and indestructible Guru, whose blessings I invoke. So we'll sit with that for a few moments. So we're focusing on on experiencing the archetypal dimension of the Sambhogakaya dimension. And sometimes people use text to do that. And if you use a text as a catechism, and if you use a text because you have to, because your superego is beating you up, and then you use it under that auspices, you're practicing slave work. You're just a slave sucking shit, even if the text is great. So that's really why, in one way, to take any of these practices, and if you want to practice, I mean, you want to do it because you actually like it, or you feel it offers you something intrinsically, and not out of some kind of obedience. You with me? You can do things out of obedience, and eventually it works after they say eons and eons and eons, right? But it's definitely not the fast trip. And it keeps you a child with a childlike brain. But not the child in the good sense of pure awareness. It keeps you obediencia, obedient. But if it's become your own authorship, then you practice these practices because you love them, and you feel them, and you know you're connecting to the mind of the person who spoke them. If you're just reading text as words, big deal. But if you can feel the connection to the mind who wrote those texts, you with me, and you feel that lineage, or the lineage quality that these. The first time I experienced it in my own life, I was listening to reading one of JFK's speeches many years ago, high school or something, and I was reading this fantastic speech of whoever wrote it for him, and suddenly it just opened for me. I was experiencing him, whoever the him is writing that. And at that point, it goes from an intellectual experience to relationalism in a most direct way. And then, like that beautiful chant we heard, out of that union, that indivisibility, then luminosity arrives. You guys follow what I'm saying? So anytime you do these things, if you're just reading these little words, little catechisms, trying to be a good little person, you will be a good little person, but that will not give you liberation. And all the great yogis say that. Goodness has its own rewards. And really, it's really good to be good because it's easier than really being bad. Being bad, you have to really be clever a lot. Are you with me? And if not, you really get fucked fast, okay? This is true. So to be good is actually simpler, right? Don't you find?
Safer.
And safer, and safer, you know? And actually, it's rewarding for you and has benefit for other people. But when it comes to these practices, you really have to understand, why am I doing this? And you shouldn't think of yourself as a Buddhist or a Hindu or this or that. Free yourself from the tradition a little bit, the decorations. You know, it's so amazing, all these different religions, they have these powerful archetypical underlying, and then they get institutionalized. And as the Dzogchen masters say, how can you institutionalize this stuff? Even Merleau-Ponty has a whole thing on the institutionalization of awareness and how difficult that is. And the more it becomes institutionalized, then it becomes distorted. It's so interesting, institutionalization. And yet, some kind of way it is passed from one person to another. It is relational, but relational life is not intrinsically of necessity institutionalized when it comes around the transmission of understanding. You guys follow what I'm saying here? You don't have to buy it, but so when you practice, you just want to see yourself practicing and invoking like a shaman, having that quality of invocation, of bringing forth. Invocation, I'm rattling on again right now. Invocation has to do with one voice, univocacy. One voice is a very interesting word. It means as one voice, as I'm invoking this, I'm in tune with the one voice that created it. That's that one voice. And for the yogis and the shamans, everything is univocal. It's all completely the same, with all the different forms and manifestations at that level of appearance, but ultimately it is all one voice. Raise your hands if that's making sense to you. One voice. So when you're practicing the invocation, you're practicing the same voice, and that takes a boldness. You with me? It takes a boldness. It takes a boldness to own that my voice is the same voice that has articulated, invoked this before. You have to have that voice. And if you pass it on to some priest doing it or someone else doing it, you're passing the buck. Help me, here's some bucks, do it, great, thank you so much. I'm free now, right? So the power of the invocation, you make it your own. And then it actually has power. It actually has, because when you're invoking it from that level, you're not invoking it from here, you're not invoking it from here, you're going deep into the body, and you're invoking it as it rises out of the primordial vibrations are arising. So you're invoking those sublime vibrations for yourself and others. So let's go into this a little bit more, and I really enjoyed last week, and I enjoyed Patricia's and Kate's sharing last week. Was so really cool. You know, the sun and the moon in their innate dialogue, huh? So the first movement in all this stuff, and as we said this so billions of times, we've done this so many times, right? Is what? What's the first movement? Not getting a book in your hand, but the first movement is entering into awareness, or to use a Winnicottian word, entering into transitional space. Because that is where the archetypical dimension emerges. You know who also said that? Carl Jung. This whole intermediate area. Say, you guys follow what I'm saying? So if you're just doing your regular mind, hour after hour, you know, you're doing it out of duty, and you're in your mind, repetitious words, that's really good. It gives you something. I think you get a discipline frame there. But other than that, it's the same person day after day, week after week. But if you can enter transitional space, however you do it, and you enter that state, that between fantasy and reality, the intermediate area, we can do it right now together. And you suspend your mind, no one way. Fall in love, it opens up for you immediately, huh? Into this space. So it means you're not simply located in your mind like we typically are. You've moved. When we're in the mind alone, that is the deepest realm of the unconscious, just being in my nice little rational mind. So as I start to move from my mind and I become aware of my mind, that's the opening of the transitional, that space between myself and my mind. At that moment, there's more light. It's going to start to open. The hiddenness of reality starts to come through in a less mediated way. That's the first step of opening the unconscious. Huh? The experiential, we start to have the experientialness of what is, right? Then as we become aware of this awareness itself, as we become aware of the transitional state, that's when the different dimensions can really open up to us, right? and we can start to experience the archetypical manifesting in the Sambhogakaya, or in the Nirmanakaya, and it's manifesting in the Sambhogakaya, and manifesting arising out of the Dharmakaya. And Skip copied that text, and he's going to send it to Amy, right? And Amy's going to send it out to everybody. That text I read last week on the different dimensions. So as you and I move from awareness, become aware of awareness, we start to be in the field of awareness, then the field starts to manifest in us, okay? And it starts to manifest within us, and it starts to manifest in our situations. That's been manifesting all along, but I never saw it as a field before, and I never felt the energy of it before, and I never felt the translucidity of it before. So with each movement, I become more conscious. I then start becoming more conscious of what's actually happening. In a certain way, we can look at the Sambhogakaya realm as Jung would look at it, as the true depth unconscious. I'm more often than not unconscious of the archetypical dimension that's manifesting me and my circumstances in this world. And there's many different metaphors for that. There's metaphors of energy, there's metaphors of light, there's metaphors of configuration, that vortexualness, there's metaphors of apparition. There's no one. Even Alan Wallace, who's a really interesting scholar, he would say that nowadays, really, and for him, and he's also has a degree in physics and pretty much everything else in the world. And he says, for him, the archetypical isn't necessary here. The archetypical is quantum physics, algebraic manifestations. You with me? And when you understand that, that's not an intellectual statement. It's how he's experiencing the manifestation of the equations. Say yes if you're understanding what I'm saying. So here's, we like these because we know them, right? But the archetypical has many ways of metaphoricizing it, whatever that word means. So the first movement is entering into the transitional space. And in that matrix of transitional experience, the archetypical dimension begins to manifest itself in clarity and experiential nearness. Just like we do when we're with each other. And we enter into it together. Or like that song, huh? So without being in the field of awareness, very little of the experience of the manifestation of archetypical or Sambhogakaya will happen and take place. Now, fortunately, this happens naturally. People are out in the woods. There are all sorts of reasons why people enter transitional states, not because they're sitting with their legs crossed and thumbs in certain kind of a... Naturally, huh? And all the great sports are really transitional states, huh? So there's no one way. And when you study this from a particular traditions like we are, you get fixated and you think that's what it is, right? But there's no one way of entering the transitional, that space. You really want to know that, right? Because if not, it becomes a perversion. And perversion means a good thing's turning bad. But if a person is in their mind alone and the intellectual apprehension can take place, but not the experience what is, you become an anemic academic. Are you with me? So the unfolding manifestation of the archetypical or Sambhogakaya dimension can be experienced in many forms. The experiential manifestation can be experienced in terms of the experience of the configurations of the energy. Let's extend the energy to each other. Just the energy. It could be experience of configurations of light, huh? Forms of light, light of forms. It can be experienced configurations of space, even just feeling the different configuration of the space, right? It can be apparitional experiences that people have, different apparitions manifest. Overall, the experience of the archetypical dimension is the experience of the translucidity. There's more When you and I are in the archetypical dimension, Sambhogakaya dimension, whether it's Sambhogakaya of Sambhogakaya or Sambhogakaya of Nirmanakaya, there is a translucidity of what takes place. Clarity, a luminosity. And the translucidity, clarity sometimes can say that I'm looking at you in clarity. That's a bit of witness consciousness. Translucidity is a much more powerful word because it's relationally that the whole scene is more translucent. The whole scene is more, it's like feeling porous. Everybody feels porous here, right? Translucidity is the luminous side of porousness. Say yes if you understand that. Say no if you don't understand that. That's why you want to know where you're going, okay, when you flip translucidity. Now, so this translucidity is the medium of the archetypical realm. And when people describe that, or as Patricia and Kate were describing, they were in the medium is translucidity. Is this making, we're going a little further, is this making sense? It's becoming more refined here. Are you with me? So there's a translucidity of experience and a translucidity of understanding. There's a translucidity of vision. So you start envisioning experience differently. It is actually literally like seeing through phenomena, seeing through in the situation, seeing through in personhood, seeing through in your own self. And the seeing through is not always a happy moment, right? Because it can be challenging. So the archetypical realm is the intermediate area between ordinary life experience as Nirmanakaya and the pure potentiality of. So that's why in a lot of these autobiographies, right? I don't be boring anybody too much, but a lot of the autobiographies of yogis and saints, or whatever you want to call them, adventuresses, it's a lot of the Sambhogakaya dimension, right? You want to read is one of Swami Muktananda's, okay? It's all archetypical. He's in the archetypical realm most of the time. And it's simultaneous. Here's a person sitting next to him, and at the same time there's this archetypical thing going on. The entire book is an archetypical simultaneous, it's Nirmanakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya, okay? Simultaneous. You read the Mirror, what's the one by Durjam Lingpa? Same thing, the most of the book. You read things of you read Christian mystics also, and you will see some of the very same simultaneous of the Sambhogakaya manifestation and the ordinary life. And as Durjam Rinpoche said, it's really good to read the lives of people that are yogis or who write their biographies, because you actually meet them in the reading, okay? Because that mind is there, and you meet that mind that's in timeless awareness and manifesting through the written word simultaneously. That way, it's alive. And people don't have these experiences; they have to cling to belief. They have to believe as a security operation from the great abyss. But that believing and a fundamentalist attitude, as Longchenpa says, it can concretize your mind. In Longchenpa's words and meanings, I'm running around right now, if you follow me, he said, at the end of what's the big block? He said, it's your concretized mind. Concretized thoughts, no translucidity, no flexibility, just the facts, as Sergeant Friday would say, So everything is a fact, and belief is a fact. And then you cannot, being located in mind alone, the dimension is foreclosed for you, and you are living this whole thing you desire is unconscious for you. And you can be a very good person simultaneously. However, with the other side, if you happen to fall in love and you have a lot of love, that naturally opens us up beyond belief. Because love is always a fire, right? Love is always a fire. Love is not a reward. And I've been a good person, now I have love. Finally. Love is a fire. It is always a fire. And that fire, in spite of what we believe, that Surya, that sun, in spite of what our mind is doing, illuminates us and liberates us as ordinary people. You don't have to believe any of that, but this is the way I like to think about things, because I think it's really fun, you know. So you one way you say something and then you negate it as you move down. I used to have a philosophy professor who did that. He would write and he'd erase everything. And I thought it was really stupid. You couldn't take any notes, you with me? But you found out you just had to think it on your own. I hope you guys are getting something out of today. So,
That's like you saying over the years, we're all making it up as we go.
inventing it. And it's been invented before. I'm going to ask for a moment, let's see. Let me just revisit it. So the most obvious, straightforward experience is the experience of the field of awareness with the ordinary situation and circumstances of our immediate life moment. It's like right here now. We're now in the field. But the field that is holding this ordinary experience is manifesting as subtle energy and opening spaciousness, and with some clarity and translucidity of the ordinary circumstances and situations. So that is a glance. That is illumination right there. So we're experiencing the circumstance and the situation within light as the radiance of knowing directly, right? Unmediated. That's why the gazing is really important. So within this immediate context, often called the Namanikaya in Dzogchen tradition, our ordinary situation being experienced within awareness. That really is natural liberation. My ordinary experience is being experienced within awareness. And as soon as I'm out of awareness, I'm back into samsara, or as someone said this morning, the hell realm as she came in. I'm back in the hell realm. But if I'm in awareness, then everything is a source of liberation for me. The field phenomenon of awareness manifests itself and supports the person in bringing forth their experience of a situation, as well as eventually opening and bringing forth into translucidity the archetypical underpinnings. So as I start to go into the archetypical level with a person, or we go with each other as we break into couples, then at that point the archetypical underpinnings begin to open, And we want to get beyond just thinking that the archetypical is apparitions. Often we think about the archetypical being apparitional, and it is, but that's a very narrow frame of it, you with me? And sometimes it can be a little box that opens up for us, you with me? But we haven't quite entered the box yet. I don't mean to be ugly, but Yen Shin would say, oh, you're at the door of Qigong, but you haven't entered in yet. And so with the apparitional dimension, that can happen for us. You have the grace of apparition. You're at the door. You are at the door. But you haven't quite entered it yet. You want to think about that. And they can come really easy. But you have to enter the apparition. And again, Swami Muktananda would say that, right? You have to enter the apparitional. Then the apparitional breaks away. Just dissolves. Elizabeth, hi. Would you say what's going to happen about the book coming out, the volume? Yes. The folks who have written this have articulated themselves for us, which is great. Tell us about it.
Well, we have an abundance of offerings. Thank you, everyone, for your beautiful offerings. And
that's a great word for it.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure what the next step is, Rudy.
How many pages?
Well, we have about 30 offerings,
okay.
And so I was just talking with Aaron that there's a possibility of having chapters, one for essays and one for poetry.
Ooh,
I wondered if that makes sense.
And if we have too many, we could have one in essays, one volume in essays, and one volume on...
Okay, to have 2 volumes, yeah.
If the volumes get too big,
That's what we were thinking.
people collapse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to have 2 volume 1, the realm of appearance, it's called the realm of experience, right?
The realm of experience, right.
As essays, and the second, the realm of appearance, as
Poetry.
And even I don't mind small volumes at
Okay.
all. I think
Well, yeah, we'll definitely have enough to have a good sized volume in each. So
let's do
yeah.
that. That's
Okay. All right.
fantastic.
Great.
Who are some of the people who have done this?
Tom and Carolyn and Marla and Carol and Aaron and Gisela and Juliet
Okay.
and Karen Ferguson, and I'm trying to think, if I leave anybody out, please let me know, and myself, and is anybody there? Anne.
Oh,
Anne, definitely,
yes,
yeah,
right.
and so I think that's all for right now. That's what we've had.
Great, that's great. So let's do 2 volumes. We can do that, and I think Mimi will put them on for us, and you guys can work that out. It shouldn't be that big a deal. Really great. Yes, Patricia.
I don't think so. At least turn it in, and we'll see how it all shakes out. Yeah.
That's great. So there's a generativity, right? There's a very generativity, and we don't have to be anything exceptional. We don't do exceptional here. We don't do special here, all that kind of stuff. You with me? But you're articulating your experience for yourself and for others, which is cool. So let's continue on, okay? So these field phenomena of awareness manifest itself and support the person in bringing forth their experience of a situation. So we're always in a situation. Even the moment of death is a big situation, right? And then you reincarnate again. Big situation. Or we'll say it this way. Primordial awareness reincarnates again. Primordial awareness reincarnates as you, and then primordial awareness reincarnates again. Over and over, huh? And eventually opening and bringing forth into translucidity the archetypical manifestations. And these archetypical underpinnings or manifestations can be languaged even as planetary configurations. So for some people, the archetypical is the cosmological language of this cosmos. Surya and mind, right? The sun and moon, huh? Those are archetypical articulations, right? Saturn. So all these planetary things over the centuries, whether Tibetan, are one way of languaging the manifestation of the archetypical elements becoming form. So for instance, Surya, we talked about Surya last week. There is a Surya, but there's also Surya as the archetypical that manifests that Surya, that deity, and also manifests Surya here in us and us. So at a subtle level. So at a subtle level, all the planetary elements are here. All those elements are here, right? So all those configurations are elements of air and things. Say yes if you understand that. Or the deities, okay? So we're reading this fierce deity, huh? Doje Drolo, a certain elementalness, huh? Of that archetypical energy that appears, huh? Okay. One of the things we want to mention, one thing, as we're doing the archetypical thing, is we want to feel the felt sense of the manifestation. So we're not simply doing an intellectual thing like many people do. You can do it, but you want to do more the felt sense of what am I experiencing. And then as the felt sense of the focusing, the open focus, then the meaning begins to manifest through the felt sense. Say yes if you know that, right? We all know that as Gestalt therapists, right? Formerly Gestalt therapists, whatever you're doing, but experiential work, you can feel the felt sense opens the meaning of the archetypical manifestation. And the more that you have non-conceptual knowledge and you're not doing it with mind alone, but you're relying on the felt sense of the perception, to that degree it's going to be more direct for you. Say yes if you understand that. Okay. This is just a little summary here, and then we'll do some work together. So, in a certain way, as we use these different languages, whether it's through text or through each other working, the felt sense, that knowingness, that shared mutual experience, because we're both in the field, we start having a simultaneous experience that is rather similar. Correct? Yes. And so that felt sense can be articulated simultaneously, and the implicit is becoming explicit. We might look at this whole deal as the implicit is becoming more explicit. You with me? The implicit of primordial awareness manifesting through the energies, coming into our own being and our circumstances. We're also starting to actually watch the unfolding of manifestation, of circumstance, and the unfolding of the manifestation of the archetypical simultaneously. So there's the capacity to experience the self-manifestation, the arising of the manifestation of an event, and then it's dissolving, and then to actually start experiencing within those events itself the archetypical energies is liberation. It's liberating, huh? Because it takes one to know one. Yes?
Would it be fair to say that meaning is at the felt sense level also?
Yes. There's two meanings, right? There's meaning of the mind, but there's another meaning, which is the meaning of the felt sense level. And I think you guys as poets, I think they write meaning at the felt sense level. And they can use various metaphors, but the meaning is the felt sense. So there's a word called connotiveness or connotationness or connaissance. Connaissance is knowing without necessary intellectual meaning. And there is meaning. Some traditions think, oh, all meaning is stupid, okay? There's no meaning. And certain forms of Buddhism also think that once you get but actually from my experience, and I think from people like who I like, Muktananda, Longchenpa, people like that, there's this meaning that it's the logos.
Yeah.
The logos is meaning. And it's a denial of logos. It undercuts the logos. You with me? And so the logos itself keeps manifesting itself through experience. That's why this all has to do with experience. Every experience is meaning, but not necessarily an intellectual meaning.
Yeah, and sometimes it's right. The difficulty is when it's turned into words to not make it just conceptual.
Would you mind writing a little brief essay on this? I'm serious.
How about a poem?
A poem would be great. Perfect. A poem would make it so direct. Let's do that, okay? Thank you. And Marla?
It's happening right now. That's
It's happening. It's unfolding at this moment.
I can't remember if we've talked about this in here. The movie, The Man Who Knew Infinity.
No.
Seen this movie?
I want to see that. How's it?
It's about, I'm not going to remember his name, but it's this Indian man from this.
Oh, I know. I saw that movie. It's great. Yeah.
And it really illustrates this whole notion of this knowing,
Yeah.
this pure knowing alongside of logic.
When I was describing Alan Wallace's thing, I was seeing him.
Yeah.
And that movie picks it up so greatly, the manifestation of these infinite. Yeah. He's an Indian person who was just having these revelations of quantum physics coming to him. So he goes to Oxford, you with me? And he has all kind of problems because he's brilliant, but he's not an anemic academic. And then it's a drama there. Yes.
I don't know if people know Nassim Haramein.
Who?
Nassim Haramein is a contemporary physicist now. He's
Oh, cool.
not taught in the university, self-taught in nature.
Cool.
And he has a movie out called The Interconnected Universe, I think. It just came out. And I think it very much
Says this.
What we're talking about.
How do you spell his last name by
I
chance?
think it's H-A-R-A. You know, let me poetry part, as you're speaking yesterday, I had one of these moments where I was in the shower and I just had this poem.
Cool.
Haiku poem. But then I had to use my mind to actually do it 5/7.
That's great.
But you see, but what happens for me is that it comes together. That
Yes.
the need for the structure and the entering into the field just kind of work very well together. But it just happens sometimes, and I have to seize it.
Yes.
When it's gone. Right.
Beautifully described. That's why we're not simply working on being awareness alone. If I was in awareness alone, I wouldn't know you. But with my mind, I know you. And with the mind and awareness together, then that simultaneously is what gives beatificness to singularity. Then that takes place. That's why our mind is intrinsically important to this entire thing. And I saw that beautifully with Patricia and Kate last week as they worked that out. So, you want to say what it was like for you last week? We should get 2 microphones in this room.
So, as we started the session, Rudy, you were talking about the sun and the moon and how to bring the moon into the sun, not to ignore the moon, not to honor the emotion of the difficult situation we were all holding. And Kate sat beside me, and she really went into her moon nature. She was crying, and I could feel that. But then as I received the transmission of your talk, I wasn't intending this, but what started to happen was, and it was interesting that it went with an elongation of my spine, that I started to go completely into my sun, completely. There wasn't any moon interfering. I could still access the feelings I have about the election, the thing we were discussing. And believe me, I have a very strong moon. I always have. Everything makes me emotional. So, but as my body and my being went into that, it filled me completely. And as I did that, I experienced Kate being able to go more fully into the moon, allowing that to release. And we were connecting kinesthetically and emotionally and whatever, psychically. So then as that happened, I was embodying sun and she was embodying moon. And then I felt it started to exchange. We started to feel each other going back and forth. So it was really an experience of taking in completely the transmission of the talk. But because I didn't intend it, I feel that I was giving into what was meant to happen in that moment. And the way it was embodied was amazing. And so I went to a different level of experiencing my son. And what I was in touch with was a knowing, like my being has always known that I can hold it this way, because I've always had so much work on my emotion, and my emotion has always come in, in every moment almost in my life. But this was a whole new plateau of that, of just being in the sun and knowing that I still have the moon.
Beautifully describing that elegant process. Thank you. Oh, here comes the moon. She was just describing your shared experience last week, you 2 guys. Great. So let's hang on a little bit more. Okay. So we're going this in a little pedantic way, but that's okay. So the unfolding process, the unfolding of the experience, is an archetypical configuration with the corresponding implicit energy becoming explicit, and implicit meaning becoming more explicitly meaningful, but in the felt sense of it. And that's Tom's caveat on that is really, really useful. And to understand meaning is not simply a cognition whatsoever. CONNATIVE. I think that's a word there. So in the archetypical work, is it okay with you guys? Just a little bit longer. In the archetypical work, which is both luminous energy and meaning, there's a constant interplay between energy and meaning, and the felt sense and signification. Felt sense and signification. And like when you were reaching for the signification of it, right? It's arising out of a felt sense. And then you start finding a signification to be in this world. And that signification, you grab something, and for some it's moon, and for some it's an equation, and for some it's something else. But the signification that is useful for yourself and your situation, right? And so the unfolding process reflects the presentation of an existential situation, the explication of the implicit archetypical configurations. There follows the experiential exploration of the felt sense of both the existential situation and the archetypical configurations. Just like I try and bring my mind and my awareness together, or my moon and the sun together, the same thing. I'm working as I experience this simultaneously. It's a paradoxical, simultaneous game. If I'm too concrete, not as going to happen. I'll have the comfort of belief and disbelief, because they go together. So I can hold both the archetypical and the ordinary life together. When I can do that, that is really liberating. I'm experiencing both the archetypal energies and the energy of the ordinary situation simultaneously, where there's a difference but no difference. The explication of the felt sense gives both a meaningful understanding of the deeper and depth dimension of what's actually manifesting, what is happening. So in this event of illumination, both experiential and other strategies can be brought forth and made explicit. So out of this appearances, out of this experience, that alone is healing, that is alone is liberating, but also from this I can go further with some felt sense, or I can also start to think of strategies. Okay. So I'm going to ask Skip to describe his experience of primordial indeterminacy or non-determinacy, and then how he's played with that of late. Is that okay with you? The archetype of potentiality, right? One of the manifestations of that potential as archetype is the actually felt sense of complete indeterminacy of everything and anything, which is not always a user-friendly moment. We're in it now. Is that okay? You don't have to if you don't want to.
I'm wondering how far back to go in time.
Just immediate about destructive and destructive component of that.
The what?
You talked about
from
destructive
yesterday.
and indestructive.
Yes, okay.
Because they both are there.
Right. So, when Marilyn had cancer, we did a lot of readings with Peter. And every reading was, what's our spiritual task? And Peter over and over again said the spiritual task is realization through reality. And the reality of stage 4 cancer. And that is a vehicle of realization for both Marilyn and for me. In working with Rudy here, the experience that I had over and over again was riding the wave of complete indeterminacy. And just being on that wave, which is constantly breaking, constantly unfolding in its own way. And it's because it's not unpredictable, because predictable ties it too much.
Yep.
So it's beyond unpredictable. It's just unfolding in its own way. And then that's continued, and after she died, and selling the house and other events, most of the indeterminacy and the election has had this destructive, anarchistic quality to it. And just riding that aspect of the wave. And then yesterday, everything got turned inside out. I don't know how else to describe it. Physically, it's what it felt like. I got folded around. And then there's the potential, the indeterminate creative potential, equal to the indeterminate anarchistic. So the indeterminate destruction, creation simultaneous, and riding that wave as well. And it's just being on that wave of indeterminacy. I don't know how else to put it, really.
It's pure potentiality, huh?
Quantum physics.
Absolutely.
Determined until it happens.
Until the event happens. Yeah, that's why quantum physics. There's a guy named Michel Bitrol, Institut Superior of at the Sorbonne, who's a master phenomenologist, and he's also a master physicist. Okay, and he understands how physics and is a phenomenological articulation of the archetypal dimensions, okay, and to use that sort of language, okay, and as most of us do, or born. There was a great physicist who actually described all this implicit, explicit. The great physicist, Bohm, B-O-H, Bohm. So we're almost done with this, because we're going to work together. But just a little bit more how to frame this, and why it's worth it to claim the power of invocation. So the person can come to experience the connection between the existential situation, the archetypical configurations that are actually manifesting the existential situation, and one's psychological experience of the existential situation. There could be experiential as well as strategic approaches to solving the existential situation within the context of the archetypical configurations can come into being. By going deeper into the translucidity of the experience, the person may experience the innate liberation of the archetypical energies in light. So one of the understandings is this, in Dzogchen primarily, and actually in good old Gestalt therapy. The more I go deeper into the experience, therein lies liberation. I'll just say it one more time. The more I enter deeper into the experience, and into the awareness of the experience, put it that way, the awareness of the experience simultaneously, to that degree I experience liberation. So the very experience is liberating if I enter deeply into it with awareness. And I experience all my experience as the manifestation of primordial awareness itself, and including my own awareness. So you're holding this simultaneously. The more I go deeper into experience, what eventually manifests is self-liberation, is freedom, actually through the experience, from the experience, as experience. Say yes if you understand that. You don't have to believe that, but through the experience, as the experience. Now, the dilemma in doing this is you have to have a bit of a base of awareness, right? Then it really works. If the base isn't there enough, then you can just collapse endlessly collapsing. And even the collapsing itself, if one can really go with that, it is ultimately awareness itself, manifesting itself. We're just going to hold on for another minute. So focusing methods, also enactments. So sometimes even doing an enactment of the archetypical manifestation, whether it's language, words, or actually drama, actually dramatic. So a lot of ancient Greek people would dramatically enact. Almost all the great plays are enactments of the archetypal gods and goddesses as a way for everyone to participate in the liberation through the enactment. Say one more thing about mood, and then we're going to move on experientially. Sorry it takes so long. But mood. Mood doesn't mean how I'm feeling this morning. I'm in a good mood, bad mood, indifferent mood. I can have those are affective states that are organizing me. But there's a deeper level of mood that I'm always in. Actually, often know a person by their mood. You can just, here he comes, oh God. So there's, in Heideggerian phenomenology, much of phenomenology and even the archetypical way of thinking of things, there's a certain mood that is manifesting us and that we manifest, okay? So there's a certain way of trying to understand or get a felt sense of my mood, okay? The mood, okay? And not talking about a bad day, bad hair day. My hair cutter is leaving. Odie's going to Seattle. I love Odie. You know, he's leaving. So anyway, what can you do? So that's a mood, a bad moment, right? Okay. I'm happy for him when he's going though. And so, but there's a mood that is very much becomes equated with our personhood, a more foundational mood that follows us. You can think about it, you don't have to believe any of this. If you believe it, you're back into something else. But you can notice, is there this ongoing mood that I have little momentary events with, but that mood is always there. That mood is a manifestation of some key archetypical components of your person. And that is why to be able to invoke particular archetypical energies that you like, whatever metaphor you want to use, helps transform my foundational mood. And then you meet some people who they now have another mood. They're just in a new, they're another mood is there. You with me? And this mood then becomes embodied. So you might look at the archetypical manifestations and the various configurations as coming forth as my mood or the mood, or that more ordinary mood that I'm constantly manifesting day after day to everybody and everything and anyone. So to begin to hold that mood, to actually hold that mood and awareness is really useful. You with me? And the more powerful the light of your awareness, you can metabolize that mood. That's one of the things we bank on, is a metabolization. Or say you like a particular deity, whatever that might, you like Surya, whatever one you like and love, you know. And you keep invoking that archetypical dimension in order to metabolize that mood is very, very, very useful. You with me? Because you start to feel very fixated, determined by that mood. And that determines your perception of what's going on. You with me? You can know all kind of shit and you're in the same fucking mood, okay? So nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. So to actually know what that mood is. And some people have really changed their mood. You with me? Through what they've been doing. You feel that person's mood is changing, right? Raise your hands if you can see that in some of your comrades. That mood is gone. And I'm not talking about depression. I'm talking about a certain mood, you with me, that's there. A certain pension, a certain fixation, a certain surroundedness. And that can, so you start to look at the archetypical dimensions in regards to doing this. Huh?
I like to call it a default.
A default, perfect.
Like when nothing else is going on.
This is,
happening.
that's it.
That's my mood.
That's
my
it.
form. There it is.
That's the default.
Without anything impinging.
Without anything, that's where I go. Now it may be fantastic, you with me? And if it is, great. But it may not be close enough to primordial awareness itself. And that can be our mood, right? That is our mood, yes.
When you say, in this instance, it isn't that is my mood. That's the thing that makes me lose awareness.
That
It's
is,
a little bit like the bargoes.
no, you're actually right.
Going through
Right.
with death. It's like those are things that come at us and they keep us in samsara.
Yep.
It's those things that we can yet make us hard to hold.
Well said. The more there's typically a constant mood that can actually be the prime, and it can be a somewhat decent mood, but it hides awareness itself. So with that,
Is mood the same as personality?
I'm trying to make a little difference because you can have the same persona. I mean, everybody looks pretty much the same thing, but the more foundational mood has changed. You with me? And you can just feel the radiance of the person, the light of the person coming through, and that's the things. So let's close our eyes just for 2 minutes. Let's extend to our friends on the internet. I'm glad you guys are here. Let's have Elizabeth sit in the middle of the seminar this morning. And next week we'll meet, and we'll probably work with each other next week. We've been trying to cover a lot of territory of late, though. So let's focus on Elizabeth. This okay with you this morning? And let's focus on Skip also. Bye. Skip, you want to turn this way a little bit? You can sit next to Elizabeth if you want to. So let's focus on these two companions. We'll focus on them. And we're just going to follow that beautiful chant this morning, huh? 1 into 1. Do you remember hearing that chant? It's actually a great Jewish echad, is it? Echad, very beautiful. So let's extend 1 into 1. But not from our minds so much. Then we bring our mind down. Let's extend our lower bodies into these two people, the lower energy, the lower chakra, root chakra, grounded chakra. Then let's move up from inside to inside up to the navel. That means simultaneously there's a union, a translucent state. So now we move it up to the navel, that doorway. And then up through that midveld center, into that little doorway beneath the breast. Mouth is open somewhat. You can feel the breath, the breathless breath taking place, respiration taking place, breath dropping a bit. Up to the upper throat, palate of the mouth. Behind the eyes, it's happening simultaneous. Forehead, top of the head. We're extending to both simultaneously. So now we're going to take a little bit of a step, and we're going to extend from the back of the column of energy, which is now in all of us. We're going to extend the column into both of them, our column, gently. Now that is the mysterious Kunjungsia. And that is that chant, 1 into 1. And there's differentiatedness and yet oneness. they're both. These people have a capacity that their voice, because they have a practice that they can speak multidimensionally, so they can go all the way down as the words arise, right? Then it becomes they can go down to the vibrational level. They pause, and then they can articulate their experience from their experience at this level. And so when they do that, there's this cycle that comes around of us learning directly and conceptually more about this phenomenon, because we can. So even to learn takes a boldness. Even to learn takes a boldness. Haruka. Haruka's bold. I'm going to put this in your hand, Elizabeth. Either one. And thank you, love. Would you just describe your experience? Stay in the union with them when you seal.
Ultimately, I'm with the dark luminosity and the undifferentiatedness.
Could you put that to words, please? Just in whatever way you want. Being in that place, with that dimension.
Well, in this dimension, there's no need to know. There's no need.
No need.
There's no need. And there's deep calm and sense of groundedness, and yet freedom. Not groundedness attached, but freedom with stability.
Just stay with that a little while for us. Yes. Do you like being ground awareness?
It's quite remarkable. Yeah, I like it a lot. There's quite a lot of presence available. I'm very here, but I'm not defined by being here.
Well said, completely. And skip a place this in your hand if you don't mind.
So there's so much intensity and so much happening's not the right word, but experiencing at the same time. It's like I'm at the limits of even experiencing it.
Limits of capacity.
Yeah. Whether it's felt sense or word or image.
So stay right there.
And it's just so
And
intense.
give you a statement to keep moving. You know, right there, at the same time you hear this other paragraph, keep moving. It may not be easy, but if you could allow language to manifest, it'd be great.
So that the same intensity and the same simultaneity is still there. But what just started resonating was keep moving has no direction or destination. It's simply movement. But just like stay with the movement. And being at the limit of a capacity to really describe this doesn't have to stop the experience at all, just into it further.
Well said. Into it further.
So it, like on the brink of burning up.
Say it again, love.
I'm on the brink of burning up.
Fantastic. It's a bit like that, the fire servant of the Buddha.
And, you know, the burning's not just here, but it's all around me. It's in everyone else. It's
All around.
And then even as I'm like on the brink of burning up, the wind's just, I mean, I'm completely here and I'm completely porous, so the wind's just blowing through. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yes, totally makes sense. The wind, the element, and it's the wind And the Dzogchen masters speak about a particular wind. But there's a particular wind that comes through. At the right moment.
And the shift is being the fire on the brink of burning up,
Mm-hmm.
and having the wind come through, and then, I mean, I'm still completely here, but also being the wind itself.
You hear Skip at times speaking in terms of duality, and you hear him speaking in terms of duality and non-duality simultaneously. So he's speaking both in terms of duality and non-duality simultaneously. And it's a very simultaneous experience with both those. Anybody else would like to share an experience right now? If you want to. Okay, I'm going to pass this to... You can say it out loud, love.
I'm sensing a dissolving at the same time as a strengthening. Oh, I'm feeling the dissolving element of the fire, and at the same time a strengthening of a core. I often feel I'm living in paradoxes, and I'm embracing the paradoxes as they arise.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful to all of us. Let's hear one of our friends on the internet. Anna, how are you doing right now? Could you come put your voice on? And staying in the awareness state. What's happening? Can't hear you. Yeah, that'd be great. How do you do that? Laura, do you know how to do this by chance? Yeah, we hear you now. Yes, great.
So I was following Elizabeth and Skip, and for me it was at first I was in pure gold light, and I saw pyramids and golden sun energy, but then it went very, very deep and dark, like underwater. Particularly with Skip, I was completely submerged in water, and it wasn't meaning, I couldn't attach any meaning to it. It was just the element of water was, and still is, expanding me, but also I feel that limit of understanding that it resonates with me as well as Skip is going there.
Thank you. And our friend in Canada, Astrid, what's happening for you?
So I really had, some really strong physical kinds of reactions that I really don't know where to frame.
Mm-hmm. What kind of physical movements or experience did you have just now?
I'm struggling with sleep.
Sleep?
At the same time as rising and swirling.
I'm going to say something about the sleep, because I could see you going. Because sleep happens. Muktananda used to say, I'm using him a lot today, as you go into these realms, like you're going into the archetypical realms, Sambhogakai, use other words for it. As you go into it, one level, you turn right, you go into the deep meditation, left, you go to sleep. But actually then he talks about the sleep is called the Turiya state. You with me? So it's a sleep but not a sleep. And we've talked on that before, but it's really, really great. You can be, when there was a lot of energy and you're going into it, you're in this place that you're asleep but not asleep simultaneously. When we have that experience of being asleep and not asleep, that is a sign, an indication that we can go into that at night and start to have the practice of the night, which means when I go to sleep, I'm both sleeping and non-sleeping. Now this gets all us health addicts very concerned, but nonetheless, it's very powerful, it's very healing to be asleep and not asleep. And so sometimes that's why we would go into sleep in meditation, or you go into you enter the archetypal dimension and then you go to sleep. That this may or may not be true for you, but that's what's I'm thinking right now for you. Is that okay?
I guess I have more questions about how to work with that, but I'm going to focus on one thing. Rudy is yoga nidra.
Yes, yoga nidra.
Formal practice of it.
All right. Yoga nidra is a practice, and also there's many texts on this, but basically you have it because it's happening. The main thing is you have it because it's happening, and you're just taking what's happening and having it happen at other times. That is the most direct way of understanding this. Do you follow what I'm saying to you, hon? Anybody else want to share anything right now in the room right now? Yes, we'll pass this to Amy.
I am enormously grateful that we have this seminar, this group, this experience, and as essentially as I can, I'd like to describe between last week and this week. Last week, my experience, and I believe everybody else's, was in shock. And I'm in a different place. I think most of us are somewhat in a different place, but I think of the thing that Kanu sent out last night, and I know some of you didn't receive it if you're not on the announcements list. I think it actually bears repeating on the Wednesday morning listserv for those who didn't get it. I cannot repeat it, but it was a translation of a text that was absolutely brilliant. And what I got today was that the election was a pot. It was a huge pot to all of us, and wow. But the part I loved about that text was the lived and felt experience for me of the shock and the pot cutting straight through everything and opening up this widening circle and dimension that today, in today's experience, differs so much from last week. Last week was about, for me, the moon and the sun. This week it's about the earth. I feel a huge connection in my lower chakras, in my lower body, at the base of my spine, in my feet. I feel as if I am learning what the experience is to be at the crystalline center of the earth, and how to take that energy, that solar light that comes in from above, and transform it through our bodies. And I say our bodies because I feel the support of everybody in this. How to bring it through the body into ourselves, into our central column, and then complete the column by going deep into the earth, which is transmuting and feeding us back the element. There was something you said last week, Rudy, about eating the sky, I think on the Dakini Day. And it feels like eating the sky and eating the earth at the same time. And I marvel that we can move from just in 1 week, the shock and dismay and fear, not that that isn't still here, but the opening of possibility and the opening of how do we strengthen ourselves for what lies ahead.
Beautifully described. Thank you so much. That pop is really cool. So we're going to have a few more moments with each other. Let's deepen our experience, go a little further right now. Like Skip was describing going into it, even though we feel you've reached capacity, which people do, we feel the limits of capacity all the time with this. You come to a limit, and then we settle, okay? But you experiencing the limit opens it. Experiencing the limit. And moving without any direction, in any direction. We'll sit for another moment. So we're going into November. We will be meeting next week. Probably have a little smaller group. It's okay with me. But we're really having a great time right now, I hope. And we're holding awareness, and we really are allowing ourselves to support what we're doing here by actually practicing meditative awareness for a goodly period of time, not just for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You with me? It's actually when you come to the limit. You with me? Initially, when you come to the limit, you can get up and quit. But after, 20 years, maybe you should stay at the limit and see what happens a bit. You with me? And stay at the limit, suffer the limit. Sometimes you have to suffer the limit. And you suffer it, and then it opens. Sometimes because the door of Qigong, as Yen Chin was saying, it changes. So one time in the beginning, the door is right in your face right away. Oh my God. And it's like a catch-22, the first move's the hardest. And then you start getting good at that, and then you've got it now. And there's another limit, and so you stop at that limit, right? Okay. And but then you extend that limit, you go through the limits. You're always expanding the horizon, the infinite horizons. But it also has to do with time, because time and timelessness are very related. So at this point, you might want to consider, not of being an obedient little puppy, but you might want to consider extending the limits of time, because it's really, that time is the container. Time becomes the container. And so there's a certain point where you're having to open that time more. You with me? That things can open. And sometimes you may be waking up at 3:30 in the morning. Don't have a heart attack. Don't think you're going to suddenly... Many people who do this wake up at 3:30 in the morning. I know Lama Norla wakes up at 3:30 in the morning. And the Lamas always work. He's up because it's the great time, because you're relating to the planets at that time, right? So 3:30 is a very so if you wake up at 3:30, you may practice from 3:30 to 4:30, then you go back to sleep. Okay, there's a certain way sleep is really important, but like everything nowadays, if you don't do it exactly, you die in 2 seconds. Okay, don't do this and don't do that, and a few weeks later, yes, you should be doing this and doing that. Number 2. I really like to thank everybody who's been very generous for Lama Norla. So we have $4,500, okay? I'm going to contact them tonight, okay, that he can get really a real bed. Because in talking to, when we're going to see Tai Sita, I was talking to waiting there, and it was really exciting, but talking to Lama Samsung, that Lama... physical issues, his health and everything. And he's having trouble with different ways. And really, I don't know you guys, but a decent bed really helps with this, especially when it rises up a little bit. Well, as a yogi, he's not going to get a hospital bed, I can assure you. So some kind of way he has to see a regular bed come in. Looks like a regular bed. It's a gift from the center. So when you get gifts, they sort of have to take stuff. It's part of the deal, just like you ask for something. I like to have this. That kind of, if you ask for it, that's part of it. So you send the bed, or you send it there. So if I had to have a decent bed that can rise up a bit, and you can make adjustments. Like one of those number beds, really helps with his health. So we're going to break them today. We're going to extend the Lama Nola right now at this moment, and this gift can go through. Also, we'd like to do sometimes too. It was really great being there, and whenever the Thai sister was there, and the Maitra Center was really fantastic. So the whole thing is not a physical change right now. That wonderful cozy place that it was, totally cozy, totally friendly, not particularly cultic, not nuts, and all those really things you like to find in good places, has opened up now to this magnificent energy, totally energy-filled palace. Those texts, the Tahini text is palace and Chonodon. It's like a palace. I don't mean because it's wealthy. It's not wealthy. But it has this palatial space. So I think sometimes, if some of you guys who go up there a lot want to keep in touch with what events are taking there, because sometimes I would like us, if you want to, don't be a good little dog, but if you want to, we'll go as a group up there. We can go up a group to a program that's there, but also we can go up a group and have a retreat there. Or sometimes we'd like to do that. Right then, we don't necessarily have Ramanola might give a little introduction talk or a transmission. It doesn't have to be a big thing where he's working too hard. But when we go up there as a group, there's just a lot of energy here, and it's really cool. So I'm going to talk to them about doing that on the agenda. Okay. And then sometimes I think it might be great if sometimes, if they ever want, we could work out with you and other people a workshop for therapists up there on Mahamudra Dzogchen, how that helps you.
Someone has a question.
Oh, it's never too late. When it comes to money, we enter timelessness. Thank you. And whatever you want to give, send me an email, and I will send it in to you. Can give it, okay, for you. Yes, Friday would be great, and we'll send it by then. Thank you. But I really appreciate your generosity. Huh? No. That goes to the Washington Center.
Okay.
Yeah. For Conscious Studies, or WCCS, yes. The Washington Center, we always give it that way because it's a tax issue for you guys and for them also. It bypasses the tax people, like Trump does, okay? It's our form of Trumpism. But really, thank you so much for him. You with me? He's a very yogi person. A lot of time they sleep in difficult situations. You with me? It's true. They're very, very monastic. Thank you guys a lot. See you next week. We're having fun and we're moving ahead. We're moving. We are keeping moving. We don't need a lot of people here. I want to say this. We do not need a lot of people here. Are you with me? So we don't worry about having a lot of people here. We don't worry about having a lot of people on the internet. We could care less. You with me? We like familiarity. We like for people who are mutually companioned and support of each other. That is the best frame. With that, hasta la vista, and see you guys later.
I know.
the connective tissue, you know? Connective tissue, and I haven't been able to get it together closer than I'm going to say. Okay, before you talk, talk, when is it? Friday. Not really, but the thing I've got an imbalance. And also, yeah, and I know it's important to know